Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Culty Podcast. Today I am meeting with Bella for Friday with Friends. This episode has been recorded a while ago. We are still trying to figure out how to set up our light and audio settings correctly, so bear with us in the meantime. Have fun watching the episode, and if you want to join our cult community, just type Yeehaw Fairy Dust in the comments. Hello and welcome to the Culty Podcast. I'm your host Iris, and this is another episode of Friday with Friends, where today we are joined by my lovely friend Bella. Can you quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Bella.
Who are you? Do you have hobbies? How do we know each other?
So I am a 30-something mum from the UK. I met Iris through Twitch and gaming online. You know, we like to play zombies and Stardew together because kind of it shows the alter egos, really, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's me.
I've known Bella for a few years right now. It's been really good. I've been at her wedding. That might tell you now.
Yeah.
My introduction. You know me if you've watched more of these. I am Iris. I am a theology student from the Netherlands. I have always been obsessed with cults and sex and religion and anything like that. And that spiraled into a full-blown podcast, which you're watching now. The one thing that has come back basically every episode, except the true crime one, because that's freaking weird. But the one thing that's come back every time is some stuff about fairy tales and like myths and what mythical creatures you would put on a world if you could create a world for yourself, and what creatures you would leave behind on Earth to burn.
Snakes, easy, snakes. They can just go.
That's funny because that was my answer too.
Just don't you find that the idea that they can move that fast without legs is just no.
Ugh.
No, just
No ropes. Keep them away from me. That's one of the positive things about living in the Netherlands. There are snakes here, but so little that I've never seen one in the wild.
See, we have them here, and I've seen a couple of like grass snakes, and I think I've seen one adder before, but I lose it. I completely figure out, like, when we go to the zoo, there's a massive python, and our 7-year-old will be like, "Don't worry, Bella, I'll hold your hand, I'll protect you." And it's the cutest thing, because I'm like, okay, thank you, even though it's behind glass.
I had that with like the alligators too at the zoo for a long time, but that was because it wasn't behind glass. It was a really weird setup where they were down on the ground and we were high up, but there was a bridge we needed to cross to get to the other side. So you would be on a bridge, a wooden bridge, like one of those really cutesy ones that seem like they don't hold any weight.
And they like swing back and forward. You're like, oh my gosh.
Like, they didn't really swing, but
good.
You had that feel that it was going to swing.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't. And then next to the alligators were the snakes, and I was just like, no. And then I watched Harry Potter with my friend Nagini, the enormous snake.
But also when he lets it out of the glass, when he's talking to it at the zoo, and then the glass just disappears. Like,
oh, I had nightmares for weeks and weeks and weeks. I would let snakes burn.
Yeah, snakes, I would absolutely agree with you. I would just be like, bye. And wasps, I can't stand wasps. You have no purpose. At least bees have a purpose. I'm happy with bees. I love bees. You know, they save the planet. But wasps, what do? You do nothing. You are literally useless. Go away.
They do half of the tasks that bees do, but more aggressive.
Yeah. And they can carry on stinging you. Like, the idea is a bee has one sting, and it's like, you know, if it's going to use it, that's the end. Whereas a wasp's just like, yeah, whatever, I'll sting you, I'll go over here, sting another person. no, thank you.
And also, bees only sting when they are in danger, when there's perceived danger. And I mean, that might be sort of the case with wasps, but it doesn't feel like that.
No, they just seem evil. Vindictive.
True.
Oh dear. Yeah, see, we keep bees on the farm. We have bees. So I'm okay with bees. And they're quite aggressive bees, but I like them. But yeah, no wasps. They can stay here too.
So, you guys moved from a place where you had the dogs, but not really any other animals at the pub, right?
No, yeah, we had no garden, so really even having dogs was a little bit, yeah. To a place that's got like 34 acres of land, it's great.
How has that changed?
I love it. I'm much more of a country bumpkin, is what we call them in the UK. I really like being away from people in the middle of nowhere. There's sheep and lambs on our front doorstep. The ducks come and play in the pond, especially for the baby. He loves it. We go on a walk every day and we don't leave the property. We just walk around the house and there's all this different wildlife and it's nice. I much prefer it.
I didn't expect that, honestly.
Yeah.
You come off as a very girly girl at times, and when we first met, you were living in the apartment that was also kind of girly.
Yes, that was to be fair, that was in the middle of nowhere as well, because that was in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales, which is...
See, I didn't know that. I always thought you'd be a city girl.
No.
So that's really unexpected.
I can't deal with crowds of people. To the point we went to the supermarket on payday and all the old ladies, like everyone had gone out to the supermarket because we'd all been paid. And I literally nearly lost it. If it wasn't for my husband, I would have run out of that shop. Absolutely ran, because I couldn't cope with all these people. Which is hilarious as a musician, because I've been to countless gigs and festivals, but...
Yeah, but that's also a different atmosphere, and you know what you're getting into once you're going.
You can kind of get yourself ready for it, can't you? You can psych yourself up and be like, okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people. I am very short as well, so I'm going to get lost. Oh, bless. I love puppy dogs. They're so cute.
They are. I'd take them with me if I'd have to leave the planet and go on a different planet.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Dogs are coming. Cats? Not so sure. Tigers and lions, I love, and I would probably take them. I know it's weird, but I would take them. Cat?
I would take cats, because I have a theory about cats and men.
Okay.
Or like cats and partners in general. Cats are the kings and queens of boundaries and crossing boundaries, but mainly their own boundaries. They're so good at keeping their own boundaries. So if someone is like being an absolute asshole to a cat and like always crossing their boundaries even when they've just met the cat, and then they're like, I don't like cats, I don't get them, they're like rubbish. I'm like, some things to consider.
Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, I love cats, right?
Oh, no. I see, you don't have to love cats, but there's a difference between not necessarily liking cats and being absolute dickheads to cats.
I mean, like, we used to have cats. I had 2 Maine Coon cats when I was younger, and I love them to pieces. They're just not friendly characters, are they, by nature?
It depends on what it's not called strand. It depends on what strand of cat.
Breed.
Depends
I know what you meant.
Yeah, being bilingual, right. Guys. It really depends, because like there are like orange cats are known for being batshit crazy, and then by the way, it doesn't matter what kind of cat it is. If it's orange, it's batshit crazy. And then there are some other type of cats that are just always very cuddly. Some cats might like bond with only one person, which to the other people might then see like they don't like you as much, but they're just very connected.
Dogs do the same. My dog, when I'm around, everyone else, she's terrified of them. But as soon as I leave, they're best friends, like best friends. So she's coming up to everybody. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, when we were at your place and you guys weren't around, at first they were really shy, and then I don't know which one of the two it was at that point, but they kept coming up to us, being like, hi,
That's
hi.
Probably Zana, because she's like that. As soon as I'm gone, she's like, love me, everybody love me. And you're like, okay.
And then you guys were back, and they were like, we've never known you. We don't know you. Get out of our house.
Yeah, I know, right? And you're just like, hang on a second, we were literally belly rubbing 5 minutes
We
ago.
were best friends a day ago. What happened?
I mean, they do it. They do that with Bedlam as well. They like literally.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it happen. I've like literally seen it.
It's like I've known
you've been cuddling with them, and then you come in, and they're like,
so odd, so odd. you just think like attention is attention. That's great. Whoever's going to give me attention, especially like Zana loves it. She's obsessed. Makes no sense.
We're going back to the planet design.
Okay, planet design, cool. Okay.
I don't know if you're very much into myths and vampires and werewolves and stuff like that.
Yes. Love it all.
Zombies. Which one of those would you take with you?
Vampires.
Absolutely. You're team vampires?
I am team vampire. I've been team vampire. When we were at school, so secondary school, so we were like 14, 15, my friend actually wrote full novels about us going to Transylvania on a school trip, and she fell in love with Dracula, and it was all this stuff, but each one of us had our own little storyline. They were incredible, these stories, and like I will never forget the second book opened when we were adults, and it starts with me having to climb a drain pipe because I've left my keys somewhere and I can't get in my own house, and I'm like screaming at my kids, and I'm like hanging onto this drain pipe. I will never forget that. But yeah, vampires always, like Vampire Diaries, Twilight, even True Blood. I really enjoyed True Blood as a show.
I don't think I've seen True Blood. I know like Twilight is a bit of a 50-50 because 50% of people love Twilight, 50% hate it, and some people can't watch anything vampire anymore because of Twilight, and some people absolutely love it. So it's always interesting to me when people say yes, Twilight.
So I'm a book fan. I'm not a film fan. So I watched the very first one and I was obsessed. So I watched the film and I loved it because it was an independent film. It was very indie. It was a female director. The soundtrack was beautiful and it fit so well. True. And then Hollywood got hold of it. And from 2 onwards, it just became meh. So I read the books in between number 1 and 2, and just I loved it. I remember the whole scene where she gets pregnant and it's like, oh my god, can I keep it? Can I not keep it? I don't know what to do. And my mum turned around and she goes, is it an American author? And I went, oh, very much so. She goes, the baby will live. There's no way, the baby will live. She's American.
She's also Mormon, so yes, the baby will live. See, I loved the books at the time. I've only read the Dutch books, so I've always wondered like how much of the jokes did I not get, or whether just not that many jokes.
Yeah,
it seems like there weren't many jokes, but like sometimes like inside jokes or references or stuff like that we miss when we translate. Or they try to make it like make sense for, in this case, Dutch people, and it does not always make sense. But the thing is with me and book, I'm very much a book girly, but I go through too many rabbit holes with my ADHD and I do deep dives and stuff. So at some point just start like analyzing stories too much and looking too much into the author, and now I'm just like, Twilight is, if you look at it very critically, there are so many red flags about Twilight.
Oh,
and there are red flags for me, red flags about the author. But
yeah, no, she's completely red flag. I agree. When all that came out, when it became massive and people did look further into it, it became a bit like, oh, I think because of the timing of my life when I read it, I was a teenager, I was young. It was this lovely story, really, wasn't it? It was the idea of being swept off your feet by someone mysterious. Have you ever seen someone wrote it from Edward's perspective, or pretended to write it from Edward's perspective, and it's a completely different story. It's absolutely wild that just because she was female and he was male, this whole like dominating weird storyline could play out, and everyone was like, oh, I love it, but the red flags were huge. But the other way around, it would just be like, oh right, yeah, no, I'll become a vampire, cool, let's go. End of story. There's no like, oh, I'm going to lose my right to bear children, I'm going to lose, my morality. It's just cool, okay, let's go.
Looking back now, some things in there, the red flags are like, do you really want your kids to read that, or like to get from that story? But on the other hand, we all loved Twilight back in the day when we read it the first time. I mean, not everyone, but a lot of us loved it, and I don't think any of us were like, okay, if this happened to me in real life, I would go with it. As in, sincerely, like, yes, it would be fun to have a vampire boyfriend, but also, if someone stared at me while I was asleep and I would wake up and they would be in my room, I would be okay with it. Nah, I would scream for my mother.
Or like, even if you were in school and there's just a guy staring at you like really intensely across the cafeteria, you'd be like, he's a weirdo, what is he doing?
Yes.
Not
also
I'm gonna stare back.
in the movies, when they're all in the canteen and like not really eating but eating, there's like a random carrot on the table and a block of cheese.
Oh my god, I've not noticed that. That's amazing.
I'm gonna show you a picture after this. I'm gonna find a picture and send it to you, but it's so funny.
That's so ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, as I said, like I really thought that the first one was beautifully shot, but then the rest, even their skin became so ridiculous with the glittery. Like, I know it's ridiculous anyway that they glitter, but they really went OTT with it.
So there are some really interesting theories I've seen recently, and it probably, how I tell it, won't make sense. According to an ex-Mormon content creator on TikTok, he read Twilight with a really critical eye. Like, I want to figure out how much of the author's Mormonism influenced the story.
Interesting.
Because I have the insight, and he's like, yes, it's really influenced, but also you don't have to really worry about that. But he's like, if you compare lore to like actual vampire lore, and then the lore about angels in Mormonism, she kind of accidentally wrote the Twilight vampires as angels instead of vampires.
Oh my god, that's so strange.
In Mormonism, the angels, they glitter, they sparkle, like their blinding light sparkle.
Okay.
I don't really know all the aspects of it, but he was like, yeah, she kind of accidentally wrote it as Mormon angels and forgot the vampire aspect.
That's crazy.
And I was like, it would be really interesting if like religious members look at like books written by religious members and like do that sort of stuff. How much does it influence, and wait, does it actually make sense? Or like just anyone in general reading a book and analyzing it, like, wait, does this actually make sense with how we know the creatures?
Yeah, no, you're right, because a lot of it, how they might be trying to kind of infiltrate through the book that their religion is key.
Yeah.
Love a vampire.
Probably not.
Become a Mormon.
I mean, they do want you to become a Mormon, but I don't think she intended that way. But it's also, you write what you know. I'm an author, and that's the thing we as authors say all the time. You write what you know. You can research something in depth, but you always still write what you figured out about that.
Yeah.
And you can't write stuff you don't know. So if she grew up Mormon, it will influence her story really much.
Yeah, definitely.
My stories are very much influenced by me, grown up Dutch Christian, in the east of the country, because that's what I've experienced.
Yeah, of course. I had a go at writing a book once. It was just smut. It was literally just a smut book. So I don't know what that says about my upbringing.
I mean, you gave something creative a shot. I mean, you've given a lot of creative stuff a shot.
Yeah, but this is why I think I might be a bit on the spectrum, because it's exactly that. I love being creative and I will try so many different things, but I never stick at them. I never finish or stick at anything creative. Maybe some singing here and there, but yeah, it's an odd one. So like with the book, I've written pretty much most of it, but then I just stopped. Like that was it. I planned the whole storyline, blocked out quite a lot of, weird. I just stopped. It's in a cupboard somewhere.
I mean, if you still have it, send it over.
No, I'm gonna do. I do. I have it. I'd want to go through and edit it now that I'm older. Because I started it when I was like 16, 17, and even simple things like my grammar and my use of adjectives is pretty limited. I could do a lot better now, I think. But yeah, no, I'll totally send it.
I mean, at least you were out of your teens. I find stuff I wrote when I was 13.
Amazing.
And I don't want to say it was terrible, but it is terrible. It wasn't terrible. To be honest, it was really good for that age.
That's a very bluey thing of you to say. I like that, yes, yeah.
But
for a 13-year-old, it wasn't bad.
I got compliments for it at the time, because language is really my thing. You have to consider how much knowledge you have at certain ages. At 13, you just don't know as much. And I'm still only 25. I don't know as much as my parents.
Yeah, I think that is a concept that you don't really learn until you are probably in your 20s. Because as a teenager, you think you know everything, and you think that your way, like some of the stuff I used to say as a kid, like a teenager, I am morbidly ashamed of the things that I came out with, because I was a bubble teenager as well. I lived in such a small bubble of boarding school, private education, just unreal. I didn't know the real world at all, and I used to come up with these things and just be like, yeah, this is what I think and I'm correct. It's like, no, you weren't. You are ridiculous. Stop.
Yeah, I also really grew up in a bubble, a Christian bubble, on the eastern side of the country. The same kind of people, the same kind of ideas. And even when I got to university the first time, I went to a Christian university in my first year, and then I switched schools and met the real world.
But it's like that, isn't it? You can kind of see why people become so safe in cults and so kind of wrapped up in religion or in something, because it's safe and you feel like you have the power, and you've got an understanding of things. And as soon as you step away from that, that's quite scary, because the real world, there's so much more to it than your little bubble. And I can understand why people get caught up in ridiculous things.
Also, it's really
groups.
easy. It's easy for us to call it ridiculous, but people crave community. And if you start agreeing with the community, if you start off that way, and you think you finally found the people, and sometimes their ideas might not line up with you, but it's easy to go along with it, because they're your friends, they're your family, they're your found people.
They're people that have shown you care and compassion, which is something that human beings we want. You're right. To call it ridiculous is not. It's ridiculous.
I completely get what you mean by ridiculous, because cults get in the news. It's always with ridiculous and insane stuff.
It's like the afterlife. People need an answer. People want to know what's going to happen to me when I'm gone. Because the idea of just not existing anymore, like you die and you do not exist, is terrifying. Like, people need to know that something happens to your soul, that we are more than just our human shapes and forms. So that's what I find really interesting about religion, is all the different beliefs and ideas of what might happen to you. And
do you have ideas of that yourself about souls existing or the afterlife?
So I was brought up Christian, and I would say that we were social Christians. We would go for Easter, and we go for like midnight mass because we enjoyed singing the carols. And I think we used to go on a Sunday when we were younger, but I think that was more so that my mum could bung us in Sunday school. So she got a bit of time. And then even at boarding school, like I was christened and I was confirmed. I went and did my whole confirmation. But I don't know if I necessarily believe that there is a higher power, but just because of the atrocities that happen in the world. There is like, you look at all the wars that are happening, the idea that there is someone up there playing like Sims and we're here like, well, tell me what to do, and someone's literally clicking a button and saying, haha, you're gonna go drown in the pool, lol. It's I find it quite sadistic, really. So my soul itself, I hope there's something else. I hope that we go on to somewhere else where we can see the people that we love again, because I think like the idea of losing the people that you love and then not going anywhere and you never being able to see or speak to them again is I don't like that. So yeah, I think there's definitely something else. We go somewhere else, but where it is, I don't.
That makes sense.
Because I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but then there is so much to back, souls not leaving this world because they've not finished their, whatever it is. I don't know. Weird.
So
what about you? Well, as a Christian, you are heaven, and
I mean, that's the thing. I study theology. So I'm confronted with a lot of different ideas, even about things people assume about Christianity. For example, the things about like bad stuff existing and a God existing. There are different ideas even of how involved a God is. Is God involved right now, or was he only involved when he started creating the world and then he left to do other things like creating other worlds maybe?
I like that idea. Yeah.
And myself, I grew up with, I wouldn't say strict necessarily. In our eyes we were like not really strict and we were pretty open to new thoughts, but if you look in like the scale of Christianity, we were on the stricter side. Growing up, we went to church every Sunday twice. On Wednesday we had some sort of schooling about church in the evenings, and then I had my baptism and I had my confirmation thingy, both of them. I did my confirmation thingy early. That was how convinced I was. Also, I might have wanted to skip on a year of church education.
It was the bread and wine for me. We get blessed before you're confirmed, but after you're confirmed, you can take the body and the blood.
I was more Lutherans. You have your baptism as a baby, and then you have your confirmation or like your own promises later, and after your confirmation thing you can then partake in the wine and bread. But I hated the wine because it's disgusting, and the bread was good in the morning if it was the first service. Or building had two different churches in them, so if you had bread at 9 a.m. it was good, it was fresh, it was freshly cut. 11, kind of dry. If you had it in the afternoon,
it was blessing instead.
it was toast, but not toasted. That's how dry it was. But yeah, that's how I grew up. It was like that for a long time, and I just went with it and didn't question anything until I had to choose a study. With my study test, like you do a test and it gives you all the professions you should maybe go for. My first option was social work and my second option was theology, and I scoffed and said I would never study theology. I'm not that type of nerd. My friend throws that in my face all the time now.
Yeah, I can imagine. And here we are.
Because I study theology now. But I started off with social work. I did a year of social work.
Okay.
But that's when I started questioning, and I was like, well, if there's a God, why is all this bad shit happening? If there's this, why is that? If I believe this, why that? And I really have an open view to any beliefs now. I do think there's afterlife. I think there's a heaven, because I do believe in the Bible, and the Bible speaks about a heaven.
Yeah.
I am about the existence of a hell, because the Bible mentions Satan and mentions hellish circumstances, but not really mentions in hell in that way, which is already really like people are gonna come from me saying that. Yeah, so
maybe this is, maybe the world is where the devil plays, which is why wars and stuff happen, because God cannot create that, and it is your belief that will get you through.
And one thing is, I really believe that there is a way that we will all see each other again, and not just the people that have been good or something. Because in my view, would heaven be heaven if I couldn't see my parents? Would heaven be heaven if I knew my family wasn't there? Because I've non-believing family, I've non-believing friends.
Yeah. That's
true.
It's maybe there's a hell for people that really have done bad things, that no one's gonna miss them. I suppose everyone has someone that will miss them.
I always say, like, I have my own beliefs, but I'm glad I don't have to figure them out. God is the one to have to figure out all the complicated stuff, because he decided to create it. And I'm just gonna live my life in a way that I hope least amount of people get negative affected, and I affect people positively. And if everyone lives like that, I think we should be good.
Yeah, I think, I do believe in karma. I do believe that if you live a good life and you are nice to people, the world will give you that back. And if you are not, then it will eventually catch up with you. Maybe not straight away, but but I like with controversial opinion about the Bible, especially the New Testament, the Jesus bit. Yeah, I quite like my brother's idea. He might have got it from somewhere else, but he thought that potentially when it was written by people who were telling the stories, but it was more like National Geographic. It was more talking about, thou shalt not sleep with anyone other than their husband, and it's because STDs were rife. Everyone was sleeping with everyone, and they needed to do something to calm it down. So it's like, oh, you must only lay. That was a really interesting way of looking at it, that it was their kind of internet, their way of telling people, look, actually, a bit like myths and stories became, fairy tales became.
Yeah.
It's your way of saying, actually, don't be a dick and, stick your dick in everyone. Let's just calm down and be compatible with one person. And then people won't be dying of all these horrible diseases all the time.
I mean, if you really look into all the rules in the Old Testament too, they're like laws, I guess the laws of purity, but there's like a whole list of rules about food they could eat, about hygiene rules, how they had to behave. We are looking at it like, whoa, that's strict, and Christianity has so much rules. But if you really look into it, especially back at that time, it would have literally saved lives. Not eating specific foods, those were the foods that had like all the bad shit in them. People would die from that food, so they made it in a rule that it should not be eaten.
Well, it's like with Muslims not eating pork, they used to feed pigs anything, and as a culture, we are very much, you shouldn't eat meat that eats meat. So you shouldn't eat dogs and cats because they eat meat, they're carnivores. And if the pigs were eating meat, then they would have been getting ill. So you can kind of see where that belief came from. I know that there's other things when it comes to that religion, when it comes to pigs, isn't there, as well? But yeah, it is an interesting way of looking at it, that actually back then, a bit like the Americans' right to bear arms, it made sense. But now,
Yes.
in this day and age, it doesn't make sense.
Which is why a lot of those rules don't get followed anymore by regular Christians. I don't really know about Muslims because the whole religion is based like on a different structure, but it's all really interesting to me. That's why I study it.
Oh, I agree, and I think again it was one thing that I was so ignorant about. I'd literally grown up Christianity, and it wasn't till I moved north, and in the north of this country, we do have a heavily Muslim culture, and it shocked me at first. I'm not going to lie to you, I was very shocked being in Leeds and seeing all these people with headscarves. I was like, oh my goodness. But now I understand it and I'm not so ignorant to it. And I think a lot of religions are cast out because of ignorance. You know, one of my closest friends, she's the RE teacher at the school I used to work at. And she is Muslim. And talking to her and getting to know her and understand her it was fascinating. I really enjoyed our time where we talk about religion and talk about, you know, like, I love their burial idea that you don't get buried by the mosque at all. You have to be that's a sacred place. The mosque is sacred. Why would you put dead bodies around it? And I'm like, yeah, actually, why do we put dead bodies so close to the church? What is that? Because we want to be closer to God? Is that like because we've literally buried the Queen in a cathedral, like under the ground?
Yeah. So for Christianity, yes. I mean, the church isn't holy, but the ground is like christened or holified, or I don't know how you would say it, but because the ground is holy, we need to be buried there because that's safety for your body.
Yeah.
And they look at it the other way around because the ground is holy, why would you put something that is far from holy in it?
Yeah.
I like the Jewish customs around dead and dying, is they set Shiva for people that have died, which means that from the moment they die to the moment they get buried, there's always a relative or a friend in the room with them. And you think like they're dead, they don't need that anymore. But it's a way of grieving because you're basically forcing but also allowing yourself to grieve. Meanwhile, most of us tend to like try to go on and on and on and get the things over with because life goes on and we need to move forward. Yes, that's true, but you also need to pause for a second.
Yeah, and I think that's a big problem with the culture of art nowadays, is that people don't sit in the sadness, they don't grieve for not just death, for lots of things.
Yes.
We're so focused on that Instagram happy of we must look like we're having fun, we must look like our lives are amazing, that actually sitting back and being like, you know what, today was a bit shit, today was crap, and I'm okay with that. We need more of that, really.
Yes. So if vampires were real and you have befriended a vampire, would you let them bite you?
You know, again, teenage me would have been like, yes, 100%, I'm doing it. Are we talking about just biting, or are we talking about turning me?
Let's turn it into a 2 question. Would you let them bite you to feed on you? Would you let them bite you to turn you?
So I think the biting thing, this is going to be a bit weird, it's quite an intimate thing. So I think if I was intimate with them, or I was wanting to be intimate with that person, then I probably would let them bite me. But if they were just like a mate, I don't know, I'd be a bit like, ooh. Because again, it's like you're giving them an essence, a part of you, your life source. You know, our life source is that blood, and we are allowing them to have some of it. It's quite intimate. But then,
if Chaos was a vampire, would you let
100%. Yeah, Chaos would bite me. Yeah, go for it. Would I let them turn me? See, again, when I was younger, I would have been like, yes, oh my goodness. But realistically, mortality doesn't sound fun.
True.
Outliving everybody that you love. Like, unless they were vampires with me, but then, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Unless they were vampires with you and you could, like, move planets anytime the planet went to shit.
Yeah, but you'd have to move countries all the time. You'd never have, like, a place where you could stay for always, because people would find out, or people would become, you know, a bit suspicious that you've not aged when they've met you as a kid and now they're like 100. Yeah.
See, I often wonder what would happen if like it was like an accepted thing that mythological creatures existed. Like we would just be okay with like, yeah, hey, this is a fairy tale book. Oh yeah, that story happened to my grandma 10 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
true.
If that was normal, because we wouldn't have the issue of them finding out or not, because even if they found out you were a vampire, yeah, some people might not like it, but people dislike other people all the time, so it wouldn't be as big of an issue.
Yeah, that's the basis of True Blood. The basis of that TV show is that vampires have said, hey, no, we exist, and they've created a synthetic blood that they can have. But it is this whole archaic, like this whole storyline of there are the people that accept it, there are the people that fetishize it and get a bit too into it, but there also are the people that are so against it and will do anything to get rid of them off the planet.
We talked about you growing up religious and not really being anymore. You and Chaos got married in a church.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Was that one of like the social things to do, or like what thought process went behind that?
That's quite interesting because so I think, you know, our parents' generation, that was the thing to do. You got married in a church, whereas nowadays it's not necessarily. You can get kind of married anywhere as long as it's got the right licenses and stuff. The first venue that we looked at wasn't a church. I'd found this beautiful place that was basically a massive greenhouse, and you'd rent the whole thing out, but it was really expensive. And our choice of where we got married actually came down to the pub. It came down to where we had the party afterwards, because, you know, one of Adam's close friends was running it. He's a brilliant chef, and when it came to the food, Adam really wasn't going to give. Chaos really wasn't going to give it to anyone. It had to be someone he could trust to do it right and then do what he wanted. So when we found out, you know, when we were thinking, okay, Sean runs that place, and then obviously there is that beautiful church across the way. And I don't know, I've always thought I'd get married in a church. There's not one part of me that thought differently. And I don't know if it's the aesthetic. I don't know if it's the idea, because we didn't go for the heavily religious service. We went for the basic religious service. There was a bit of, you know, as the vicar said, I am going to talk about God because that's why I'm here, but I'm not going to go, we are going to talk more about love and the union of two people in love. And I actually thought it was done really well. I really liked our vicar. I thought she was very with it. She was very modern with her take on what the Christian church is. And I think a lot of the issues in this country with the Christian church are down to the fact that they will not change the way that they are. I think they're slowly starting to now, but it's taken them a long time to realise that if they don't change up how they are preaching and what they are doing, people don't rely on it like they used to. Community and going to church was a big thing. It was a social interaction. It was, you know, where you saw people and you got that kind of calm and peace, and you'd work together and be together. People don't need it anymore. People have other options. Yeah, it's a dying art form over here. Yeah, no, I don't think Chaos ever thought he'd get married in a church, like ever. I think that for him was quite a big, like, well, if it's what you want, it was more for me. Like, if that's what you want, then we'll do it. I think he would have got married on a boat or, you know, anywhere. But yeah, no, you're right, that was an odd choice for someone that claims that she's not really religious.
See, I didn't so much find it odd. I was just interested in the thinking process that went with it. Still, a lot of people here that are not religious in name but have always been connected to a church, they tend to end up getting married in a church because that's just what you did. And sometimes parents play a role. Like, my parents are still religious, and I don't know if they've this is just hypothetical. My parents wouldn't really care if I get married in a church or not, but some people are like, yeah, my parents are still very religious, and I think they would be less happy if we didn't marry in a church. and I don't mind getting married in a church, so why not do it that way?
Yeah, I suppose there's a part of me that probably did do it for my mum. Like, my dad doesn't care, but my mum is the one that holds on to it. But again, now she's technically an American citizen. Over there, the church means more again than it does here. It is still a community-based thing. It is still quite heavy. She doesn't go to the... Where does she go? She goes to the Episcopal church because they are the ones that allow gay marriage. They are the ones that love everyone, no matter what your beliefs and what your, whoever you love is. So she's not Christian anymore. Well, it is a form of Christianity, isn't it? The Episcopal church. But yeah, no, they go every Sunday. They go every single Sunday in the States. But when they're here, they don't go at all. They might go to there's a really fancy place down the road, like an abbey. They might go there every now and again. But she stopped going there for a while because I was going to get married there and didn't. So she was most offended. So yeah, no, you're right. It's an interesting one. I think as well with that church, there wasn't quite a few churches nowadays. You have to attend, or there's like quite a few stipulations, like you have to pay a lot because you don't attend, or you have to attend 4 services before you get married there. This church had none of that. It was very much, we would love for you to share and rejoice in your love in our place to worship. So cool, let's do it.
Is there anything you want to promote? It can be something of your own. It can be something you want people to watch, go to.
Twitch and stuff. Like, can I?
Yeah.
Can I just promote Bedlam's Chaos? He'll do his own as well, I'm sure. But yeah, no. Like, if you guys want to talk more about this stuff, like Hellfire and Iris and I are always pretty much on stream either together or we're each in each other's streams. So. You've got Iris's Orisol Hellfire, Orisol_Hellfire.
Yeah.
Mine's Bella Boppity. And then we're normally always as well in my husband's, which is Bedlam's Chaos. Yes, exactly.
The last thing does need a bit more of introduction. If you've been here before, you know what I'm talking about. I watch a YouTube channel. It's also a shout out to her and her channel. The YouTube channel is called Culty the Consciousness, and Shalise Onsola is the host. These days she's going on with her husband quite a bit more. They run a YouTube channel where they research and speak out about cults and high control groups. They also invite people that have been in those groups. She herself used to be Mormon, and so she has a lot of experience. And they do the thing I want this channel to get to, actually giving people a voice. She ends her episodes with a listen Linda, which is basically like the thing the guest wants to say at the end of the episode. So I do my own spin of that, and in the meantime I get to shout her out. So my question to you is, if you could tell the people watching this anything, if you could give them a message, what would that message be?
My goodness. My message would be always be kind to people, because you never know what's happening in other people's lives. And forgiveness is huge in life. People are going to fuck up. People are going to do things wrong. And as long as they held themselves accountable for those things, then I think that we should be forgiving people a lot more for, things that they've done. As long as they held themselves accountable for it.
Good one. Good side note too.
Yeah, because I'm not talking about, people that have raped people. I'm not forgiving them. Let's be real here.
My message to the world is life is not a race. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the best one. If we can compare it to anything, it's a marathon. You need to keep going, but that also means that taking a break, taking a pause is not the end of the world. If it benefits you, and if you then figure out what you want, don't completely stop existing. But it's okay to take life at your own speed And comparing yourself to others won't benefit anyone, especially not you, but not even them. So be your own authentic self.
Yes, definitely. I concur. I second that.
Thanks for chatting with me. And that's the Culty Podcast for today. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. There are new episodes coming soon. If you want to be notified when those are uploaded, drop a follow. We would love to interact with you and hear your opinions. So, if you are interested, join our Discord via the link in our bio or the link in the comments. We will see you soon. Don't accidentally join a cult. Okay, bye!